to the Knilly and PB podcast. In this weekly series, we're reading Twilight New Moon because Knilly's never read it, and PB wants to send memes. I'm Knilly.
I'm PB.
And we're here to not talk about New Moon just yet. We're here to do a little bit of a retrospective plus impressions episode going into New Moon. We took a week off because my life was a little hectic, but everything's cool. And so we're recording this on Monday before our live episode on Wednesday, which you can find on twitch.tv/KnillyLine. Links in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, which you probably are. So yeah, that's kind of what we're getting into. We both rewatched episode 0, which you can find on the channel if you also wanted to watch. Yeah, I don't know if you wanted to. Should we just do I have a list. I have a big list of things that I said in that beginning. It's like you asked, what do you know about Twilight? And I'm like, here's the things I rattled off. I'm not going to repeat all of them. I'm just going to point out some things that I did indeed get right. Yes, vampires sparkle. I think everyone knows that, but I want to give myself credit for that one. We have not confirmed that Jacob is the werewolf technically yet. We just know that he is a descendant of a tribe of peoples that can shapeshift. Is he one? We cannot confirm up to where we have read yet, right? Technically. Bella is the main protag. Yeah. That has to do with the movie. Still don't know if a baby's involved yet.
Still no baby. Baby watch still going on.
Baby watch still going on. I think we addressed this in episode 1, but this does not take place in the Midwest. However, one thing I did say was, if it does, I said I would be surprised if it takes place in New York. If it does, that's some upstate BS. Knowing what I know, upstate New York would be a great spot for this to take place because it is very cold and almost like Canada. You'd have to go way upstate. So quite honestly, they could end up in New York State.
I mean, they talked about it.
They did talk about going to New York. Yeah.
You know, like pros and cons, NYC.
Yeah. So, also city that never sleeps could fit the bill. And they could, you know what? They could kind of get away with sparkling. Weird shit happens in New York City all the time. So you can hide between buildings and all that. It's shady, they could get away with it. They've probably all been anyway. So there's that. So that was the one thing definitively wrong. Those are the quick fire hits. And then we had a few other things that I want to talk about. But is there anything that you wanted to comment on any of that? Since I just went through it rapidly.
On any of that, I did note every single one of those, and I thought they were all very funny. Oh, you also thought it was 3 books, and then in the preparation, you realized no,
it's 4.
It was more. Yeah, it's 4. Although you said 5, it is 4.
Yeah, it's 4 technically in the main series.
In the saga.
In the saga, yeah. And then the 5th book is Midnight Sun, which is just the POV, Edward's POV.
Yeah.
And then we have the novella. Yeah. So there's all of that. Another thing was, what was it? We were talking about what do we call Twilight fans. I think you said Twihards throughout this, and I think that was we didn't look it up after the fact, but it kind of just came back to your memory, and I've just accepted that as fact. Will I be a Twihard? Probably not, but I'm here for all the stuff that Twihards stand for. Okay, another thing you asked me was who would be my favorite character, and who would not be my favorite character. Before reading anything, I said I would be Team Jacob, and my not fave would be Bella. I think Bella is still kind of there. Granted, the parents are kind of very tight in the running for the actual spot, but so far kind of pinned as a teenager being my parents. Granted, well, Charlie is a little bit definitely higher than Renee in terms of my regard, but that kind of, it's still yet to be seen. So the entire All the swans are on my shit list right now.
Not a fan of the swans.
Not yet. Not in general. However, my fave now is Alice right now. Because we haven't gotten a lot of Jacob, so I can't make a big judgment. I do think he's kind of just like in a weird, awkward position because his grandfather's trying to make him the messenger, Billy, his dad, is trying to make him the messenger, and then he's also just got this awkward crush on Bella. So like he's kind of like, why am I doing this? Why am I here? He's being awkward teen. So he doesn't have like full character development yet. I can't wait to see how he develops. But right now we are, again, Team Alice, Bellis, Team Bellis.
I like it. I also gave my thoughts of my least fave and my fave, which my least favorite was Renee. In which I still think that Renee is my least favorite. Although I think that's definitely going to change in New Moon. Overall, I think in the entire series, Renee's going to be my least favorite. But I'm also, man, I said I'm looking forward to a lot of things. You discovering them. And now that I've gone through New Moon to see like what chapters we're going to read, I now know what Eclipse entails. Because I did also say a lot in episode 0 that I don't remember the difference between New Moon and Eclipse. Now I do. And I am really looking forward to you reading Eclipse especially after New Moon, because some spicy things happen. So I think some of my opinions are going to change about my least fave. Overall, I think Renee is still going to be my least favorite because team, how dare you do that to your child? And then my favorite
Yeah,
was,
for real.
and then my favorite was Alice. That one has not changed. Still a big fan. Probably will be a big fan. I'm interested to see if that opinion will change in the last 2 books. But because I've already like pseudo read New Moon looking for all the chapters. But yeah, for now, Alice still my fave.
Amazing.
And I did love your little anecdote that you had no clue who either of those 2 characters were when I said them.
Yep. It was very much like no idea, whatever. Honestly, when you said it, I know, like, I think something we may have posed in not episode 0, but another episode was for me to guess who Anna Kendrick was actually playing.
Oh, yeah.
And like, when you said, like, probably, I think I vaguely remember, like, just for a hot second, I didn't, like, feel strongly enough about it to voice it. But when you said Renee, I'm like, is that Anna Kendrick's character? I don't know. And then, like, that kind of just, like, didn't, like, address it because, like, I didn't have any other substance aside from just, like, oh, I don't know this character. I don't know who Anna Kendrick plays. So therefore,
so obviously 1 and 1.
That is his theory. What if the math is mathing? So yeah, we also talked about fave books, not fave books. I think I went off on a tirade about Harry Potter and say, but like the development parts of these kinds of stories, and especially like coming of age or like these sorts of things, are like the development part, and not necessarily the ending. And so I said New Moon is probably going to be my favorite, but also from some of the stuff that you've said in for our content warnings and stuff like that, and then how dark it gets, may not actually end up being my favorite, but I am still going to hold judgment. I'm going to hold myself to that. So we will see if New Moon will be my favorite, especially also after we read it and when we get it started into Eclipse. So that
I'm gonna stop you there real quick. You clipped as soon as you said the important part of that sentence.
Oh.
So you should run it back from, it's probably not gonna be my favorite.
Okay.
You clipped, you said it's gonna favorite, and so you should probably start back.
Sure. New Moon's probably not gonna be my favorite, probably because of the fact of like all of like the content warnings and all that stuff and how dark it gets. Because like that's a big reason why I didn't like book 5 of Harry Potter, because like Harry was such an angsty boy, and if Bella's gonna be an angsty gal, I have to very much I have to power through for the sake of completing the series and not throwing the book out a window. I didn't actually do that to my Harry Potter book 5, but like very close to. So it might change to Eclipse by the time we finish that book. We shall see. You said your fave book is New Moon. But you said after skimming, it might change.
Yes, because again, YA novels. I read them when I was a teenager. I was the angsty teenager. So reading an angsty book when I'm an angsty teenager, that
Yeah,
I'm
it matches.
literally the target audience on that one.
For
So
sure.
so for me, New Moon, it definitely was my favorite. It's also my favorite for other reasons because of the people we meet and the story that elaborates. Also, again, I did mention it has one of my favorite moments in the entirety of the book, entirety of the book series. In fact, it's right at the beginning of the book. I
No,
didn't
cool.
realize it was it's quite literally why our first reading session is 1 through 3 and like 5 sentences of chapter 4, because it is, at the end of chapter 3, and I'm like, "I hate that this is at the end of the chapter and I can't throw us into 4."
Yep.
But I don't know, we'll see. Maybe Eclipse, I don't know. I find the vampires are my favorite part of the Twilight series,
Mhm, mhm.
so that's usually why the vampire-y based, like, centric books aren't my faves. But I don't know, we'll see. I'm looking forward to reading New Moon and then going into Eclipse because I know I like Breaking Dawn. Breaking Dawn, as I said, is my
Yeah.
favorite book,
It said your favorite, yeah.
and so I know for sure that one is gonna stay at number 1, but New Moon and Eclipse, they might switch. I don't know. I'll have
Alright,
to see how I feel.
okay. So that's those. What else? Hold on. Turn to my page in my notes. Um, I think so then we kind of just went off into I realized which was redundant. I like asked you what else to expect, but you were the one already asking me quite like what you expected from me, but you were already asking me questions, which is very fun. This was also, folks, a little retrospective for us on how we did on our first few episodes of podcasting. It was very fun to be like,
Yeah.
oh wow, we kind of like did okay from the for episode our first time. Um, we touched on a lot of this. The biggest part that you said you were excited about was the lore. And I think one of the things I wanted to um ask you, be able to switch in the hot seats. Was there anything that I reacted to differently than you would have expected?
Oh, there was. There definitely was. I'd have to look back at my notes, because it happened, it went by, and you were very, like, nonchalant about it. In fact, when we were, like, going through the episode, I had to double back and make sure, like, we covered a certain thing because you just were very blasé about the moment. And I'm like, "That was a big moment in the Twilight series. Excuse me?" I was just like, like, going back to the thing, uh,
What part was that?
it's somewhere, God, what was it? It had to have been it was something that I'm sure you thought was, like, melodramatic, which is probably why you glossed over it.
Oh,
I think it's right before they left, um, Bella, like, yelled at Charlie and left.
oh
I think
yeah.
it's somewhere along those areas
Mm.
that yeah, I don't remember exactly what it was. It was definitely I definitely was like, "Oh," you might even see it in an episode if you go back and watch it on YouTube. There is a moment where I'm just like, "Oh, no. Let me double that one back right there." Because, yeah, I was definitely not expecting you to just be very oh, yeah, like I said, just very nonchalant about the
Was
idea. It's just like, "Oh,
was it like the goodbye kiss before hunting James? No.
no." It was even before that.
Oh.
Honestly,
Because we hit I definitely didn't gloss over like some other like the more mainstream Twilight things, right? Like we got into that
yeah.
meme, we got into the sparkling bit. Um I guess maybe it'll come to us. If not, you can tell us in the comments what
I w
the heck it was and
I
what episode. Timestamp it.
I also was I think it's just honestly, it might have been just her leaving, like, leaving Charlie, and, like,
Oh,
her
sure.
going through that entire scene of her, Like, after she gets out of
Oh.
Edward's car into, like into leaving the house,
Oh,
into
sure,
getting
it
back
might have
into
been
her
her
car.
line being like, "I hate forks, blah, blah, blah," like the exact like, nearly the exact wording her mom used when breaking up with her dad.
Yeah,
It might have been
that
that.
and, like, even the before part, um like, her getting her secret cash hoard that she had, like, under her
Yeah.
mattress and, like, an old sock, and, like, all of that. That entire scene, you really just summed it up in a sentence, and we were about to move on, and I was like, let's, like, double back on that one because that's actually a big moment for Bella and Charlie's relationship,
It's true.
that will have impacts later on in this book and also at the in the next book. So, that I was, expecting you to have a little bit more of a reaction on that one, I think. And then I think oh, I also was looking forward to the end.
Oh.
Uh, the, like, 100 pages of story we had in Twilight. Like I said, I mentioned, Twilight isn't my favorite book. It's my least favorite of the 4.
Mhm.
Because all it is just explaining the relationship between Bella and Edward, but it's fine. And so I was looking forward to seeing your reaction to the twist that it was actually a video James was playing and not
Oh,
actually Renee. It's like that's what I was like, "Oh, I can't wait." The entire time on the inside, I'm just like you're speculating about, like or just, like, even stating as fact that, like, "Oh, Renee was on the phone, telling Bella, worried. Maybe she's, like, being, held hostage or, like,
yeah.
James has something against her or
I
something."
fell
And
for it. I was Bella.
yeah, it's like Renee's now gonna know about vampires. There was a lot of things that you said, and I was just sitting there like,
Yeah,
"Can't say
totally.
anything.
I mean,
Can't say anything."
we did talk about it extensively and how we're like, man, that's really cool. Like, it was a very cool way, like, to like that just was really cool because like yeah smart he that James wasn't like he was an intelligent hunter, right? He's not
Yeah.
like some guy who was all bark no bite, like. So I was very
It's
like I at least I didn't skim over that because I was like it did like I think I mentioned in the episode I had to reread that. I'm like, oh, I get it. Wow, what a guy.
it's like that was, like, my major payoff, um, because a lot of the romance stuff that happens between Bella and Edward in the beginning, I kind of completely forgot about,
Hmm.
because the most important part
Facts.
you keep with you is just that Bella is obsessed with Edward and
Yeah.
Edward is moody, but also equally as obsessed with Bella.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's really all you take away from Twilight. And then also the dangers of vampires, that it's
Yeah.
not all, like, lovey-dovey. As
Yeah.
much as Edward really tries to inform us and Bella that vampires are bad, we really take a very a nonchalant approach at it because Bella's just like, "Oh, it's fine."
Yeah.
We're like, "I guess it's fine."
I think like I think I honestly one of the things that I was more surprised about was that and I understand like coming from like Stephanie Meyer's like more I don't want to say prude, like more romantically conservative background in terms of like dating and stuff like that because of like being raised Mormon. Like I was actually surprised there wasn't as much like romancy lovey-dovey stuff because I think it was it was and rightfully so, it was overshadowed by the fact that Edward was trying to like he was doing it in a very like sexy way to be like I'm dangerous and then Bella's not getting it. She's just obsessed with this man. So like I'm like all right, I see where, like, I can see where, like, the 50 Shades fanfic came from in order to, like, to essentially make good on, like, those threats, which is, like, an awful thing to say because that's not, like, I think we mentioned it before in episode 0, like, sorry, not Twilight. 50 Shades is, like, not a well-written BDSM book. So, like, I don't want to give it any credit, but, like, I see what happened.
Yeah, like, you can see, like, why,
Yeah.
where someone would want that.
Yeah.
Um, and so to answer your question, aside from that, really you had pretty much the reactions I was expecting and hoping for.
Gotcha.
You know what? I did mention that you said you were an empathetic reader, and that was when I first learned that. And I mentioned that I was very excited suddenly to have you read Twilight because I remember things I remembered about Twilight that I kind of said. It's that it's, but I kind of stopped myself from saying more things about like the romance between Edward and Bella in episode 0, specifically because you said you were an empathetic reader, and I
Yeah.
wanted to see your reactions to the extremely cringy romance in this book. Because I was like, I can think off the top of my head at least 5 moments that I in myself am just like, ugh, I can't wait to hear what Knilly's reaction to this is. Because in fact, in my notes, I believe I have things of moments of just like, I can't wait to see Knilly's reaction to this because I already knew as soon as you said that, I'm like, oh, I cannot wait. This is gonna be such an adventure for Knilly.
Right? Like, and like half the time also we went through all those romantic moments and I'm just like, oh, they're bad at being on man. Like, cause that's all like, I just don't want to like,
Knilly's favorite minigame is counting every time Stephanie Meyer says marble or porcelain or anything like that to describe Edward. And I'm assuming is in protection of those scenes because it's always in those scenes of just like, and he held me in his cold marble hands. And I'm just like,
yeah.
This is why Knilly uses this as protection.
It is. It's just, I just gotta be like, oh, the literary mechanics of this are so repetitive and blah, blah, blah. Deflect, deflect, deflect. I think I would probably actually have a hard time doing that, though, if I liked Edward, if Edward was my type. He's not my type. So,
if he was a Darcy, then
if he was a Darcy, maybe.
Then I'd be like, oh,
maybe.
Oh, Mr. Darcy.
Mr. Darcy. I love how we continue to just bring up my Pride and Prejudice. I love of Pride and Prejudice specifically.
You love Pride and Prejudice so much, though. That's why I have to bring it up.
Come on, yeah, let's change it up to like some Jane Eyre. Let's do some Jane Eyre references.
Mr. Rochester?
Yeah, Mr. Rochester.
Mr. Rochester.
Riding on a fucking horse in the middle of winter. Let's go.
He's very, here's the thing about Jane Eyre is I mistake Jane Eyre and that moment for Carmilla. I mistake the moments because they have very similar beginnings, or like because the horse thing is such like a moment in both the books.
I haven't read that one.
It's interesting. I mean, it's literally
it's the same thing
from like the 18th century or whatever. So same energy, but not really same energy. No one come at me in the comments. It's completely different books. Anybody who's read both of them, don't come at me.
This is coming from a place where we had to read them in high school and write essays on them. We haven't read these books very recently.
I read Carmilla on my own time.
Oh,
I read it because there's a web series, a complete utter tangent. There's a web series called Carmilla that's very popular in the it's a complete reimagining of the tale of Carmilla, because Carmilla is written as Carmilla, the main character, being very predatory because she's a vampire. Spoiler alert. And so very predatory on the main female protagonist of the story. And it's a story about predatory women. It's basically a tale of just like lesbianism bad. But the web series is lesbianism, yes.
Nice.
And so and it's a web series and it's all taking place of from a webcam of this journalism student like reporting on like the weird stuff happening at her school.
Oh, that's cool.
And very good web series, definitely recommend it. Very long, very good. But that's why I read the Carmilla book.
Because for some background.
Yeah, for some background. And then I realized how completely and utterly different it was. But that moment right there, the moment about the horse carriage, I also didn't. I like read my first 2 reading assignments of Jane Eyre. And then I read them, but I was completely checked out.
Yeah, I think we talked about this on like, I think we were like playing video games together or something, and I gave like the weirdest
Yes,
like
yes,
Spark
you did.
Notes version of Jane Eyre. Because
Like,
because I know when you're in high school and you're reading like these like sorts of books, we're getting onto a tangent here, but you know what? That's what you're here for sometimes, tangents. When you start reading these books as a teenager, sometimes some of the concepts and the way they're writing go over your head. And when you realize how big of a mystery novel that Jane Eyre really is of like what's going on, yeah, like I had to explain to Phoebe that there's like a whole like plot about it. Honestly, if we're going to compare Pride and Prejudice and Twilight, I actually think Mr. Rochester has more in common with Edward here because he's kind of like, I need to protect you and save the day all the time. So something to be said there. We can write more essays on Twilight now because compare.
it's like quite genuinely in Jane Eyre, I remember the beginning of the story with the fucking horse. Um, no idea what happens between that.
Yeah.
I think she goes to her old school or something, and there's like a section where it's like 2 pages where it's the description of a room. And in class, we had a long discussion about the color of the curtains in that room and what that meant. I think they were blue. And then suddenly we were at the end of the book and the house was on fire. There was a crazy woman who, surprise, was a wife of Mr. Rochester. And then Jane Eyre and Mr. Rochester like got together. And it was a very let me tell you, when those are the 3 points
It's a
that you know
weird
about the
story.
book, and then at the end when your friend is explaining to you, because I was talking to my friend who did read it, uh about, like, how boring the book was and how just, like, weird the ending was. She was just like, "Oh, I mean, that was the answer of the whole mystery, though." And I'm like, "What mystery?" And she's like, "There was this whole plot about how
Where's the
did you just."
voices and like what's going on and
I'm
sounds in the
just like,
house. It's actually kind of like it's a little bit of a spoopy story.
"I just thought it was an old house, fam."
Eh,
Honestly, I read most of it on Cliff Notes, so, like, most of that was
yeah.
just like, whoosh.
I mean, so
But
did Jane Eyre for a little bit. She thought it was just, oh, it's an old house. So like, you're kind of right. But yeah,
I mean, who expects the wife in the attic, you know?
yeah, the wife in the attic that like, and the weird marriage, but not marriage, but also marriage and wealth in those times, and Twilight is Jane Eyre.
That's if you take anything from today,
Today,
it's that Jane Eyre and Twilight, same book.
same book, same book,
Same
same
book?
book,
Same book.
same book.
Same book. Oh my gosh. Oh, I did talk about um how I was looking forward to talking about New Moon because that was my favorite book, as far as I remembered.
Are you still looking forward to talking about it?
I am looking
Okay.
forward to talking about it. But now that I've read through it, I'm looking forward to hearing your opinion as an adult reading the book.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm interested in my own journey in reading this story now as I'm an adult with
Yeah.
a different perspective on life and not a teenager anymore. Because New Moon, to me, going through it very quickly, very much feels like a teenager's book, like a
Mm.
book you read when you are an angsty teenager, because a lot of the things that happen, and a lot of the dramatics about the book, that's really reductive, is about a lot of the a lot of the more, um, l larger moments, we'll
Sure.
say, in the book, because, like, I understood it as a teenager. As
Mm-hmm.
an adult now, I'm curious how it reads and how concerned I'm going to be about
The
all
livelihoods of
of
these
our
teens.
childhoods.
Yeah.
Because so many people are team Jacob and it's because of New Moon.
Mm.
Um, so I'm very curious. And also there's like a whole subplot I completely forgot about.
Oh,
That I'm looking
surprise.
yeah, that I'm looking forward to going back and reading. Because again, you kind of Twilight, New Moon, very much setting up the end of the series, which is Eclipse and Breaking Dawn. And so we're setting up all of these different characters for Eclipse and Breaking Dawn. And I just like in Twilight, I completely forgot about a lot of the setup. I was like, "Oh, huh." So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm more importantly looking forward to your view of the book, especially knowing that you fucking hated the 5th book of Harry Potter because of
Yeah.
how
Angsty
angsty
it
it was.
was.
It's like it's so, like, weird for me to hear you be like, "Oh, angsty stuff," when I'm a teenager reading that?
That's
Gross.
that,
Ew, get that away from me.
that's the thing. I
Unrelatable.
wasn't not an angsty kid. It just made me so frustrated that like I was already going through my own shit as a kid that I didn't need to
Yeah.
read someone else's shit. Like
You
I
said
needed to reserve.
relatable? Not here.
Like that's well, no, does that make it too relatable? Because like I can't do this right now. I had boundaries, and this is my safe space, and Harry wasn't going to encroach on that. Okay, I'm not about to let Bella and Edward do that too. All right.
I already had a man in my life, okay, and his name was Mr. Darcy.
Yeah, fuck. You know what's funny though? I don't think I had read Pride and Prejudice at this point.
It is my headcanon that you've been obsessed with Mr. Darcy
Since like
forever.
Okay. Hold on. I'm curious. Harry Potter #5. What year did this come out? What year did this fucking book come out? I just want to set the record straight. Okay, the movie came out in 2007, so like.
Like 2000, well, like 5.
So it must have been like. I want the book, not the movie book. 2003. 2003. Okay. What year was I in high school that I read this? I had to have been a junior. 2007. So Harry Potter came out before Pride and Prejudice. Before I read Pride and Prejudice. Do not misquote me or misclip that.
Obsessed with
I
that.
love that your headcanon though is me reading it like in a fucking diapers though. For the record, Pride and Prejudice the book came out in 1813, okay? The movie was 2005. The one with Keira Knightley. There was quite a few movies.
First in line to read it.
Yeah. For I time traveled back in time to make sure I had a copy, first edition copy. When it was under her pseudonym because she couldn't write. Oh no, that was Charlotte Bronte. I think Jane Austen still wrote underneath her name. I have to don't call me out on that. I don't know. I have to look it up. It's been a while. It's not like I can read any more of new Jane Austen books, you know?
No one correct us on anything on this episode. Let us live in ignorance.
Let us have our fun, okay?
Let us have our inaccurate fun.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Oh my god, that was
God damn. PB. We trying to get back on track. Gotta bring this car back on the road. Okay. We did talk about some of the other books, but I think we can save that chat also a little bit for like what, because episode 0 was also kind of like the impression of like the entire series, but we did touch on like, did we find out who Bree Tanner is? Not in this fucking book. So we'll see who Bree Tanner is still. Shrug.
Let me explain to you for just one quick sec. I said it in episode 0 also. Stephanie Meyer put so much emphasis on characters that are in the book for a millisecond. And then they're out. Now, granted, I've looked up who Bree Tanner is, so she does have a little bit more significance in the story. But if you were to look up how many times she's mentioned in the book, in the Twilight saga, I guarantee you it's like once. The full name is probably in there once. And so it is hilarious to me.
That she has an offshoot novella.
She has the whole book. Yeah.
Yes or no? Is she a New Moon?
No.
Okay, so we're gonna see her in Eclipse?
Maybe?
Oh, okay.
Bree Tanner is important. An important plot point. Oh, it's probably gonna be Breaking Dawn when we see Bree Tanner, actually.
All right.
So which you can hold on your Bree Tanner watch.
Yeah. Which kind of makes sense since like it was a novella offshoot that came out after all of that stuff anyway. So like It's not like if the novella came out in between those books, then it'd be like, oh, it was the earlier book. But or it could have, like, the only reason, like, it could have been any book after all of the books is that she was saving the story for the end. But yeah. Okay, so Bree Tanner watch is not until like maybe end of Eclipse.
Yep.
And then we went back and forth on Life and Death, which we'll talk about another time. And then Midnight Sun is just Edward's POV, which you mentioned a few times throughout this. Like you said, when we read Midnight Sun, when we read Midnight Sun. So we probably also want to go back and do all of that stuff and get that reaction. So that'll be another retrospective episode. We just got so much here, you know?
I was going to say an anecdote about Midnight Sun, but I'll say it when we read Midnight Sun. Go ahead.
Anything else you want to talk about? I have one more thing, but I know I've been kind of like dominating the conversation, but because it is really about my retrospective and reactions.
Yeah,
but,
it is.
But anything else you wanted to
add? Your reaction to meeting the Cullen family and different characters. Honestly, you know what really shocked me is how much you at the beginning were attached to very unimportant characters. Like Tyler, Eric, and Mike Newton.
Well, they were all we read about.
I know. I mean, it totally makes 100% sense that you attach to the side characters that we talked about in the book, but they're so unimportant. In fact, Forks High School, so unimportant, like so much that I forget about
that they're in high
everything. Because the story is so much about Bella being obsessed with Edward that I completely forget. That Bella cares about anybody, that talks to literally anyone other than Edward and his family.
Yeah.
And like her friends and her like other friends that aren't Forks High School friends. So yeah, so when we were reading through it, you kind of glossed over the Cullens for the most part until they like came up in relevance.
More frequently.
Yeah, but the moment we started talking about Mike Newton, Tyler, and Eric, you latched on to that, and
it's that juicy high school drama, you know. And give me my young adult high school teen novella, telenovela,
and that's why I was so shocked that you didn't clutch onto the Cullens, or like you have no impression of Emmett. Emmett is my favorite Cullen aside from Alice.
You know what it is? It's because especially because the way they're characterized, right? Like they're so cool. They're just they keep to themselves. That like they very much had when they were introduced, and I think it's on purpose, that like clique mentality, and that was just, and they're so good looking, and it's like that group of like kids that like exist at school because they believe that they're better than everybody else, and that's just how they come off as. And like I didn't F with that, I didn't care as a teen growing up, like whatever, I'm gonna just be over here in this corner with my friends, they're gonna be over there. And so like I think it's like written that way because like all the other kids at school do not, because like, they're mysterious or whatever, like, and they want to get on the Cullens, like that group's good side, obviously, because they're so cool and they want to be popular for clout, whatever. But like I was not a clout chaser in high school as like hardcore as that. Only there's like times obviously when you have like your crushes in high school and shit like that, but like I don't know. I was just mostly like, I did after school in the art room doing extra art or like theater. I didn't go to any sports games. Like I was not that kid doing like popular kid shit, quote unquote.
I mean, even when we got properly introduced to the Cullens, when they went actually over to the Cullen household, you mentioned it only to mention that that's where we're at in the story that we're reviewing. And so that was shocking to me that you were just like Emmett, Alice, Jasper, Hoomst, and then you had a slight impression of Rosalie of just like Rosalie is mean. And
Rosalie is mean.
That was that.
And I really and then we just talked about Carlisle and I think that's just part of like what I got from the book, because it didn't go into much deeper for anybody else. So I'm like, okay, they're there and they will be an accessory to the story until like my opinion of Alice has grown significantly because of the major part she's played, as well as Jasper. Yes, Jasper. Do I get them confused?
No, it's Jasper.
Jasper,
Yeah, you're
Jasper,
correct.
Jasper and Alice. Like they have grown as intriguing characters by the mechanics of the narrative because they had a part to play.
Mhm.
So like, sure, like, oh wow, Family of Vampires, cool. Until I know more about them, I'm like, okay, they're here.
But I mean, that's like the difference
Yeah.
that like the second impression or the second introduction was like nothing to you. It was just like I already know who you are.
Yeah.
I don't need to know who you are again. And so that was shocking to me. Um and I'm looking forward to see how your impression of those characters grows
For sure.
as as the books continue and we learn a little bit more about them. One specifically that I won't mention, but because of how they're written, because Stephanie Meyer obviously has her own opinions of the characters. Stephanie Meyer is very attached to these characters,
Hmm.
so it is she has a very specific idea of who these characters are, and that's how she describes reading them, of just like telling their story as the characters would play out in these scenes.
Yeah.
So there's one character in particular that, in retrospect, as an adult, I'm just like, oh, huh, that's a little fuck that you wrote them like that. And so I'm looking forward to that character specifically, how it's written, and then
Yeah.
also some of the other characters as we, I'm old now
Yeah.
reading it,
For
so
sure. And like I definitely want my opinion to be changed of them. They have just simply been presented as the Cullens. They are so beautiful and they are doing all of this to protect me. Oh, woe is me. Please don't put yourself in harm's way for my sake. And they're like, but then it's mostly for Edward's sake, really.
yeah,
um so like
which makes
that,
sense.
yeah, which makes sense. And like it's fun that, like, yeah, I guess I thought that there would be, I mean, I can see where you're surprised because like I almost wish I had a bigger impression of them, but again, they like it wasn't, they were kind of just presented as like mysterious and aloof, and like at a certain point, like I'm tired of that trope, man. Like,
Yeah.
so
Well, I mean, even when they were introduced as no longer that,
yeah,
you were just like, yeah, whatever. And like, I
baseball was fun.
also yeah, baseball was like we learned about how every one of them was turned,
Yeah,
and it was just very much like, "Oh, okay."
that's cool.
And how that's probably one of the things that might have been what shocked me that we had to go back and talk about
Oh, that
is,
might have been the
some
thing.
moments yeah, that some moment like, "Oh, we have to, like, go back and talk about this because this is relevant to each." We get so little screen time with the family. I need we need
We
to
need to give them the screen time they deserve.
yeah, it's like I gotta make sure we all understand who these characters are before we move on.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that was another thing that I was surprised by,
Yeah.
that you were just very nonchalant, ev- despite you being very on board with all the humans and Jacob.
I mean, the thing is, like Bella, like we had opinions of them as people up front, right? Instead of just like from far away. So like,
Mhm.
yeah, am I curious to learn more about these people? Sure, but until like it presents something like interesting or it's a mechanic of like the driving plot, like I don't have like all of the headspace to keep track of every single one of them anymore. Maybe if I was younger, I would have been like, "Ooh, who are they? I want to know more. I'll write a fanfic about them." Like, so I don't know. But like, I think so. With all of this and having this knowledge, have some of your um feel like have some of your predictions about my predictions or my feelings about the book changed as we go into New Moon? Like, are you expecting different things now from me, or not in like a oh you have to do this kind of way, but like what I'm reacting to, etc. Like, are you more or less excited? Like, you're probably even more excited. Let's be real. But like, um. Is there anything now, like, has anything come into spotlight that you're like, I can't wait for this in particular that you weren't excited for before?
I am I'm excited to see how you're going, especially going to New Moon. Because like as you described in our episode 0, that the way that books are usually set up is that 1 and 2 set up 3 and 4, you know?
Yeah.
And so naturally 2 is gonna start setting up book 3, which is then, setting
Yeah.
up for the big, storyline in Breaking Dawn. So, I am looking forward to seeing where you're going how you're going to take the storyline.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Also because we're doing these in small chunks, I'm wondering if you're gonna connect dots earlier. Now that you know how Stephanie Meyer writes her books, I'm
Yeah.
curious if you're gonna start connecting dots earlier on the major plot lines as we read through New Moon.
Sure.
Um,
Like the bigger
and
through
I
plot and not like the plot with the smaller book plot.
Yeah, because although New Moon is again, the book is through Bella's eyes, it's through her perspective. We're living through Bella. Therefore, it's gonna be an emotional journey just like Twilight was, because we're going through it as Bella. But a lot of stuff happens in New Moon. There's a lot of story that happens in
Mm,
New Moon
I'm
that is
excited.
going to set up Eclipse. So I am curious I'm very curious because you know things about it. Like you know that Jacob is a werewolf.
Yeah.
We don't know that. Like
Right.
we think it's all stories, even though Billy is very sus.
Yeah.
Um, we still don't know what's up, and even if we think they're werewolves, we still don't know. We don't understand.
Yeah, we don't know the
And
werewolf mechanics for this because the vampire mechanics here are different, right? Than the typical genre of
yeah,
vampire. I want to suck your blood and Dracula shit, right? Like,
exactly. So I'm very much looking forward to, especially with your interest in Jacob and your thoughts of being hashtag Team Jacob, um, how any of that is going to any of that perspective or expectations you have are going to shift as we read through New Moon.
mm-hmm,
Because even as you were describing it, I was like, oh, interesting that that is your expectations for this book. I'm interested to see how you read through New Moon, basically. And the same thing with the rest of the series. Now that you kind of because at the end of our last episode, end of uh Twilight, you also had some predictions for New Moon,
oh yeah,
and I was just like, it's very interesting.
all
I'll say
right.
that it's very interesting.
We shall see indeed. All right, so to wrap up this episode, some quick like expectations slash predictions for New Moon, right? Let's see. I think this is the book. I might have said this in another episode. I think this is the book we find out Jacob is a werewolf shapeshifter or he comes into his powers of some kind. We find out somehow because you kind of did offhandedly mention that this is kind of like where the Team Jacob folks came from, right? Like this is
Mhm.
like the book. So I think this is probably where we find that out. I think let me see here. We didn't actually watch the first movie yet, but I'm not gonna really base anything on that. But I think maybe I will figure out who Anna Kendrick is playing. Probably
Anna
not.
Kendrick.
I mean, that was one of the things we don't know who. I don't know. I had to guess who Anna Kendrick's playing. Still don't know. It's not gonna be Alice. Let's see what else. Um, you know what? I think in this book, Renee and Charlie will be in the same place and have a conversation about something about parenting.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I think
Spice
that.
prediction.
Yeah, I think that could like they'll actually be in the same vicinity, same room, not like a phone talk thing. Will they get co-parenting to work? Probably not. Okay, here's another prediction. Charlie shoots his gun sometime in this book.
Oh, I like that. I like
I
that's a
think
good that's a
that's a
good
good
one. That's a
like
good one.
like we know he's the chief of police that has to come into the plot sometime in this series, right? Like dad's a cop.
We mentioned it in like the first few sentences of the entire book.
Well,
That
also
has to
Bella
come up.
does bring it up. Like, you don't want my dad, chief of police of Forks, to come after you. Like that. Like her dad is the most dangerous thing in freaking Forks.
For the reputation, I guess maybe.
Yeah. I think we get more than like a passing conversation with Rosalie. Because of something that Bella is doing, be it being an angsty teen or not. Do we get? No, we probably don't get any more Alice backstory, which is unfortunate because we already got all of Alex's back. Well, okay, we didn't get all of Alice's backstory, but we got like the core of it. Bella gets a new car.
Hey,
that's a
no
guess.
more collector, baby.
I don't know. That's pretty much. I don't really have any like big plot things aside from like we find out that Jacob's a werewolf here, because like I truly don't know what to expect if it's like the angsty book, right? Like again, I hate to draw parallels to Harry Potter book 5, but like if half of this book is written in caps or all lowercase, I swear I don't know if I will have to like power through it. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's pretty, like, is there anything that you want me to take a guess on?
You know, take a shot in the dark. Why is Jacob more prevalent in New Moon than he was ever in Twilight?
Well, I guess first of all, the moon is mentioned, so let's talk about that. It's the new moon, and you know, like werewolves, they have this thing to do with the moon. That's my LOL on the nose guess. I mean, it was mentioned in the epilogue that Jacob's kind of going through his little growth spurt right now. So, you know, new moon, new beginnings. That's a whole like cyclical thing. And this is probably on me. I haven't done much research on his tribe, but it might also have some significance to do with the tribe. And maybe there's also a vampire mechanic where they're not strong during the new moon, and the werewolves can be like, "Yo, we can beat you up."
Hey yo,
meet me by the flagpole.
We'll meet up on the beach. Bet you won't.
Arby's parking lot.
Arby's parking lot, man. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And so who do you think is going to be your favorite character in New Moon?
In New Moon, I hope Alice continues to play like a medium role as she's been playing. So I would like it to continue. But like I said, I was team Jacob, so maybe it'll still be Jacob for this. Yeah, that's probably where I'm at right now. Like Carlisle is great. I would still like to continue to hear from the rest of the family. The Cullen family, so that I can get to know them more, as we are so upset that I did not latch onto them in this book. So yeah, it's probably just like I actually am excited to learn more about Jacob in this book. Like I said, I was actually surprised that we met Jacob in book 1. I did think it was like a book 2 thing, but we didn't get much of him. But I am excited to see him come to his own in this one. Yeah. That's kind of where I'm at with that.
I like it. Do you think your least fave is still going to be
Bella?
Bella?
Probably. If this is her like angsty moment, it's definitely like she'll probably like, I know like it was kind of like in between, like right now her standing with the fam, like her whole family is kind of like tied for first. But she could like break away in this one and take first place.
I like it.
Yeah. Like she can still turn the tides and not take the worst, my worst for the entire series in the later books. But if this is like her oh woe is me book, ooh. I stopped reading Harry Potter because of Harry, okay? Like, the only reason if it's like that bad, I will only keep reading it for you, PB.
I appreciate that. You know, I really appreciate your potential sacrifice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also an adult and we'll get over it. Like,
get over it.
Like, it's not my problem anymore. I went through that phase in my life. My life's pretty good right now, all things considered. So, like, I'm in a good place emotionally to handle someone else's bad emotions, even if that person is fictitious.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Is there anything else you would like to
I think that's it for me. Should we wrap up the episode?
Yes, bye. I would like to ask you, Knilly.
Sure.
Who is your VIP and the L of the week, Knilly.
Oh my God. Oh, we didn't do this for the end of the book and we brought this up. So who's my VIP of Twilight? I think my VIP for the Twilight book is Alice. Alice is my VIP. I'm Team Bellis, so that's truly my team. I'm only like kind of Team Jacob because those are really the only two in contention here. Unfortunate that we have to go the straight and narrow path. My worst of the week, which is also probably just my worst of the whole series. Oh, not series. Sorry, of Twilight. I mean, Bella kind of takes it, but let's go with Tyler.
Nice.
Let's go with Tyler. I think I gave him a VIP, but like the fact that he kept trying after like, being like, it's not gonna happen. It's Tyler. Yeah. Tyler's the worst of the week.
My VIP is that second bathroom door in the Phoenix airport.
Oh yeah. Good one.
Shout out to that door.
Shout out to that door. And I hope people have taken pictures at that actual door at Sky Harbor in Phoenix. If I ever end up in the Phoenix airport, I will be going to that bathroom.
I will be looking for that door.
I will go through all of the the deep old Reddit threads of people trying to figure out what exact terminal they were at and like which gate so that I can get my ass over there and go through this mysterious door to Twilight Narnia.
It's like, I need to know where that door is. My L of the week, I had a really funny one that I can't remember anymore.
Unfortunately.
L of the week, Cactus Street.
Cactus Street! Ah!
Cactus Street.
I think I even wrote about this in the description. We talk about how like, what a boring name for a street of all the other names.
You know that dancing place that you used to be in, Bella, on Cactus? You remember that one? Cactus?
Cactus, on Cactus. Here, I have my new W. My new W, eucalyptus tree.
Eucalyptus tree!
Eucalyptus tree is my W. Is my new W. I always get inspired by your joke, by your W's and L's that it did. I try to take it mildly seriously, but then like, oh yeah, I forgot. I love this eucalyptus tree and the foreshadowing it foretells for their entire relationship.
See, this is why I go second, so you can have your serious answer, and then I can have my silly answer. Also, for the people watching this particular podcast on the Knilly and PB podcast YouTube, I want to say that my VIP for this specific episode is Knilly's blanket on her her chair, because it generally looks, when you move off to the side that way, when you're talking emphatically, it looks like it's munching on your head.
It is. This truly is. I had to move. I removed. So it was very funny because we started the series in October pretty much. And I had the vampire machine for the longest time, especially when we went off on like the vampire mechanics, like episode 2 or 3. So I just left it on because like, oh, it's October. It's Halloween season. I finally took it off because it's not Halloween season anymore. And I do really like this dragon. It's a dragon, lion style dragon. Very cute. I love them. Give me a book about dragons, and that isn't Game of Thrones.
Aragorn?
No, I loved it. I didn't actually finish reading Aragorn, but I loved Aragorn. That book. I loved it so much. Maybe we should reread it. We're just gonna, this is PB and Knilly read all of the young adult novels we read as kids.
Like, let's do. I never read Aragorn. It was always
shit. I only really read book 1 and I think halfway through book 2, but I never finished it. So this could be it.
It was so popular in my middle schools that it was literally, book 1 was literally never in the library, so I could never start it.
No. I don't even know if I have my copies of that. We might have sent it to like my siblings, like family in the Philippines. So I'd also have to like acquire a new copy. You know what? This is also a great time to like promote, like go to your public library if you ever want to read books, but not necessarily buy them. Get a library card. I still have to like get mine for the New York Public Library. So especially because there's so many other benefits, but definitely check the other benefits. You can get free Spotify through your library.
And they have a whole catalog of ebooks.
Yeah, like you don't even have to go in person. You could get the ebooks like PB said.
You can watch movies, you can watch
anime,
TV shows,
video games. Everything's in your
Go to
public library.
go to your public library.
Yeah.
Take advantage of your resources.
To quote the amazing Arthur, having fun isn't hard when you have a library card. Was that Arthur?
It might be.
Was that Arthur? Or was that, I don't know. We'll look it up. No, I think it was Arthur. You don't fact check us in the comments.
Don't
no
fact check
checking
us.
this episode.
No fact checking. Thumbs down.
Don't at me on Twitter. Don't come at me. Y'all, I might be some mild current events. Maybe I'll be bringing back my Tumblr. Don't retweet. Don't retumble me or whatever. Don't do any of that shit.
Me.
Don't do that shit.
Okay, Mom. I will retumble.
Oh man, I haven't opened my Tumblr in like 10 years. I think the only time I recently did it was because I wanted to check it out after finding out one of my friends' exes used to work at Tumblr. And I also, for some reason, have like Tumblr, like tech team paraphernalia. Like I have a project planner and I got a Tumblr sticker somewhere. Don't know where they came from.
Oh my god, I'm dying. Retumble.
I mean,
reblog. For the
right,
record.
reblog, my bad. I'm
One
sorry,
of us
they were
knows.
acquired by Yahoo and thus became, sorry, Oath, because Oath owns Yahoo, all that stuff. Anyway, let's wrap up the episode before I go into a tech rant.
Thank you guys so much for watching us today.
Yup. Okay, join us on the Knilly Online Discord to discuss the episode or ask questions after the show. You can find the link in the description if you're watching this on, if you're catching this on YouTube or replay or wherever you're consuming this content on the internet. This recording and past episodes can be found on the YouTube channel, Knilly and PB Podcast. New episodes go up on the Friday after the recording. This episode in particular will probably be going up on the Wednesday before we go live on Twitch. So you get a little bonus episode, bonus content. Be sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, which, by the way, I'm sorry how loud that sound effect is every time I put that new little thing on. I'm gonna fix it. Hopefully it's softer in this episode. We'll be coming to more podcasting platforms soon. You can find me and all the links to doobly-doo. I stream on Twitch on... I used to have a schedule. It's kind of up in the air right now. And mostly on Twitter, but that might change in the near future. Who's to say?
Basically, find me if you can.
We'll update the links in the doobly-doo. PB, where can people find you? Probably a little bit more concrete than me.
You can find me at PbPlaysInside anywhere, usually. Now that people are scattering into the winds, who knows where you can find me? It'll probably be at PbPlaysInside. No one steal that from me. Don't at me and don't steal my
don't at me, don't steal me. Maybe we'll be on co-host soon. We'll do that.
Let's do it.
We'll be on a co-host. We'll make a Tumblr.
We'll make a Tumblr.
Knilly and PB Tumble. Okay, let's stop. We're gonna end it here before it gets well. Everyone say bye. Bye.
Everyone, it's just two of us.
Chaos. Bye.